vinyl community. Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner, and in today's video I'm going to be doing my very first vinyl haul covering all the records that I have acquired within the months of January and February of 2018. If you follow me on social media, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, I have covered these records on there, but for the viewers on YouTube out there, I will be talking all about them. I have a cup of coffee to fuel this video up because we do have a way to go. So without further ado, just sit back, relax, and enjoy this video. There's probably going to be a bit of minimum editing involved, so I'm just going to be showing you my stuff. So we're going to start this video off with what was my very first vinyl purchase of the year, and that was Kurt Vile and the Violators, The Hunchback EP. Now with this record, I actually placed the order on Discogs for this about a week or so before Christmas. The seller got back to me and said, hey, I'm traveling for the holidays. I'll get to you when I get back. So I said, okay. So I waited around a bit, and I think it was the day after New Year's Day that he sent me the shipping cost, and I paid it, and I received the record. Interesting thing with this this release, this was pressed twice on vinyl. There's the original pressing that came out around 2009, and then there was a repress done in 2013, which is pretty identical to the original press. This right here is the original press. Surprisingly enough, this was actually going for a bit of a cheaper price than the repress, which is surprising when you think about it. This is pretty much classic early Kurt Vile. You have two complete songs, and then you have some instrumental blurbs of reprises and such. Very enjoyable though if you're into Kurt Vile's early stuff. If you haven't heard of him, check him out. He's an excellent singer-songwriter from Philly. Up next were some records that I picked up at my local store that I work at. We had a deal going on where we had a selection of vinyl that was marked as clearance and 50% off whatever the sale price was. So there were some records that I got that were pretty dirt cheap compared to where you would find them at other places. So I picked up Styx Crystal Ball, Styx Pieces of 8, Jet Get Born, and Avenged Sevenfold's Sounding the Seventh Trumpet. Now, I had to comb through the clearance records just to pick which ones that I really liked the most out of there. Right off the bat, this was a definite. If you're a Styx fan, like this and Grand Illusion are the go-to albums for those guys. I wasn't 100% fond at first of Crystal Ball, so I picked it up. I think I got this for like $11 or $12, so it was marked on sale, I think, for $25, something like that. And I happen to really like this album. This came out before Grand Illusion, and it kind of gives a hint of what's coming. Very enjoyable, I do have to say. The title track is probably the most notable one on here, along with Put Me On, Shoes, This Old Man. I mean, this is really worth investigating. Interesting thing with the Jet album, the two tracks that I knew right off the bat were Are You Gonna Be My Girl and Cold Hard Bitch. But I listened to some of the samples of this on iTunes, and it sounded interesting to me, so I figured for the price it was, I think I got this for like $9, I figured might as well go for it, and just the album cover alone looked really cool, and I thought it was worth picking up and investigating, and I really did enjoy it. And then we have the Avenged Sevenfold album, which for me, listening to this was a bit of a nostalgia trip because my best friend got me into this band in middle school, and I remember listening to this all throughout like 7th and 8th grade. It just brought back a lot of nostalgia for me, but it was a great listen indeed. Up next were some albums that I picked up with some leftover Christmas money, so I went ahead and got Rush's Farewell to Kings and Fragile by Yes. The cool thing with the Rush album, this is the 2015 reissue. This utilizes direct metal mastering, so they actually cut the record onto copper instead of a standard lacquer. It says that it loses a bit of the more lower frequencies, but I think the amount of bass and low end produced on this album is pretty well, in my opinion. Lots of great tracks on here. You have, of course, Closer to the Heart, Xanadu, Cygnus X1. This is excellent. And then this Yes album is a new reissue that was done by Kevin Gray, who is one of the best vinyl engineers out there. And considering this is an audiophile record, this was actually quite affordable. Both the Rush and this album were like 17 bucks. So knowing how audiophile pressings go for price-wise, some go into like 30, 40 bucks, whatever. This resembled excellent value, and I'm very proud to own it. Then up next was something that I picked up that Rhino Records did. Every year, in the beginning of the year, they do a campaign called "Start Your Ear Off Right." Well, they'll press up some albums on colored vinyl and whatnot. And I picked up Alice Cooper's "Welcome to My Nightmare." This was his first release as a solo artist outside of the Alice Cooper group. The cool thing with this release is that it comes on a nice purple vinyl, as you can tell. If you don't put it to the light, it looks very like blackish, but if you hold it up to the light, it has a nice purple effect on there. Now, aside from this album, I also picked up Killer. And it's a real shame what happened with it, because it did come with the original calendar that came with the original, and it was on a nice red vinyl with black swirls. But what happened was they switched up the lacquers with that album with another album that was repressed, that was an older Alice Cooper album called Easy Action. And so what happened was, if you bought Killer, the record that you received was actually Easy Action, and vice versa with Easy Action, and you actually got Killer. Right off the bat, I was going to order Easy Action for the sake of getting Killer, and I'll have both albums, but Rhino recalled those ASAP, and the retailer that I bought the Alice Cooper records from, Bull Moose, offered me a refund, sent it back to them, and so I did that. And I understand that there's a market out there for people that are into those weird vinyl pressings, but personally for myself, my preference is to just have the album, and that's it. So with the money that I got back from the Killer album, I went ahead and got this. Jethro Tull's Minstrel in the Gallery. This is the 40th anniversary version. It's been remixed by Steven Wilson. And I do have to say, considering that, I mean, yes, these are digitally done, and they are not the full-on originals. This is a remix of the original album. It stays very faithful to the original album. Nice 180-gram vinyl. Sounds spectacular. And they all come with a nice booklet with liner notes and all kinds of photos. Ian Anderson talks about all the songs. There's lyrics. It just gives you a nice insight on what was going on at the time of the album and the band and everything. So I do enjoy these Jethro Tull reissues that came out. So up next, just right off the bat, I'll say this. I buy most of my records from Amazon, and towards like the end of January going into February, they were dropping prices of albums like crazy, and I just couldn't say no. So the first out of the many records that I got from there was Paramore's Riot. I think this normally goes for about 17 or 18 bucks, but I did get this for about 11, which I just could not ignore. Of course, it includes Misery Business, That's What You Get, Crush, 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 Hallelujah, For the Pessimist and Pretty Optimistic. This is just a great slab of mid-2000s pop punk. And then I also picked this up for 13 bucks. This is Queen's The Game. This is notable for including Another One Bites the Dust, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, and also some of the deeper cuts such as Rocket Prime Jive, Dragon Attack, just excellent. This is the 2015 reissue, half-speed mastered. Sounds excellent. They did use the 2011 digital remasters that were done for CD, but personally I love how those sound, and this sounds just spectacular. And then there was AC/DC's Stiff Upper Lip. This came out in the early 2000s, so this is more of a blues-based kind of album. The standout tracks are the title track, Stiff Upper Lip, Can't Stop Rock and Roll, Come and Get It, Safe in New York City. I mean, this is actually a really decent record. Produced by George Young, which was Angus and Malcolm's older brother. Him and his partner Harry Vanda produced a lot of the AC/DC albums in the 70s, and this is an excellent kind of, I don't know, this isn't a comeback album, but it's a nice kind of reunion album of all the brothers together working together, so well worth checking out. And then we have Iron Maiden's No Prayer for the Dying. This was the band's first release in the 90s. This came out in 1990. For some reason, this is a bit of a obscure album of sorts. Apparently, it was received very poor by critics back then. But I gotta say, the songs are very strong on here. I guess maybe the one thing that gives it its value of sorts is the production, because it is very stripped back. This was actually recorded at bassist Steve Harris's studio at his house, and this is actually probably one of my favorite Maiden albums. This includes Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter, of course, which was their one and only, so far, #1 hit. Holy Smoke, Tail Gunner, Mother Russia. This is a great record. This is one of the newer reissues that were done in, I think, was it 2015 or 2016? It was fairly recently that this was redone. I think I got this for like $13, so I figured, why not? It's worth a shot. And then we go deeper. We got Jethro Tull's Thick as a Brick. This, along with Aqualung, is probably the seminal Jethro Tull albums to discover. The newspaper cover isn't replicated exactly as the original, but it does come with another booklet which has the newspaper artwork replicated in the first half of the booklet. So just really awesome stuff. Really glad I picked that up. This was, I think, $13 as well. It's crazy how Amazon really drops the prices on these things. And even if you're a Prime member, like I am, sometimes they'll drop prices exclusively for the Prime members, which is awesome. You know, you can really grab a hold of some really great records like that. Same thing with this one, Van Halen's debut album. This is one of the best, greatest debut albums of all time right here. Absolutely love this album. This is the reissue that was done a couple years ago. Chris Bellman did this from the original analog sources. Sounds excellent. Of course, you really got me. Running with the Devil, Atomic Punk, Ain't Talking About Love, Eruption. I mean, this is just, you can't go wrong with this. Absolutely love this record. Next was, the next two are kind of instinct buys. I had my eye on these albums for quite a long time, and I saw that they dropped, and I really wanted to jump on them while I could. So up next we have Live Nassau Coliseum 76 by David Bowie. This is a live concert from the Station to Station tour. This is him in his Thin White Duke kind of phase in the mid-70s, which is a personal favorite of mine, and I love Station to Station, and he covers a good portion of that album on this double LP live release. Just sounds absolutely spectacular. Really love how it is. And up next we have Tommy by The Who. This was, I think, $16 along with that the Bowie live one. This is just another one of those classic Who records that you have to own, and just a classic rock album to have as well. You got a booklet with the lyrics and the artwork replicated here. Just really great. Kevin Gray also did this as well. So right off the bat, it is a spectacular sounding record right here. Up next was a bit of an instinct buy. This record has always kind of been high in price at times, and it dropped very low, and there was one more left, and I wanted to get it before the price was bound to shoot back up, and that is Lizard by King Crimson. King Crimson albums in general kind of go for a bit of a high price tag, and sometimes the prices go up and down, and when they do, I always try to jump on them. This is a bit of a jazzier kind of Crimson album as compared to the traditional Mellotron sound that everyone knows them for. Standout tracks on this are Circus, The Lizard Suite, Lady of the Dancing Water, just really cool stuff. And I have to say, this is probably, I'll give you a close-up so you can see the detail. This is probably one of my favorite album covers of all time. there is just all kinds of stuff going on in this cover. If you look closely, I feel like that's the Beatles and with John and Yoko right there. If you look carefully, can you spot that? Cool stuff. Absolutely love it. Then up next was the albums that I was really, really excited for, and those were the new David Bowie reissues that came out just recently in late February. Now, I will point out, here, I'll show you what I got right off the bat. We got Low, Heroes, Lodger, however way you want to hold it, and Scary Monsters. Now, these vinyl reissues did first come out around September of 2017. Ever since 2015, they've been releasing box sets covering certain parts of Bowie's career, and they bring together all the albums, live albums, remixes, any associated recordings that was released at the time. They put it together in one package. They do it for both CD and vinyl, and I'm sure all the Bowie fans are like, why don't you have the vinyl box sets? Personally, for myself, as a preference, I'm not big on having duplicates on certain albums because some albums are remixed and whatnot, such as the live album David Live was remixed, as well as Ziggy Stardust and Station to Station. Those were remixed, so I wasn't too big on having two vinyl copies for those. I was all for getting the original albums as they are when they were released separately from the box, but that doesn't mean that I don't like the box sets, because I do buy the CD versions, and it's just nice to have an updated version of Bowie's catalog on CD. They all come in mini LP replicas. They're just really, really great. I do enjoy them very much. But just to talk a bit about the records, these two are some of my absolute top favorite Bowie albums. I love the instrumental stuff that he was doing with Brian Eno at this period, along with Robert Fripp, who was in King Crimson. I'm just really glad to finally own these, and I was very much looking forward to when these reissues would be released. And then with Lodger and Scary Monsters, I'm aware of them, and I know the hits off of them, but in terms of some of the deep cuts, it's going to be an album that I'm going to warm myself up to as time goes on and I listen to them. So I am excited to give these a spin. And then the final album that I'm going to show is a bit of an impromptu, what the hell, I'll buy it kind of thing. And that's Aerosmith's Rockin' a Hard Place. Cool thing with this is that this was a Record Store Day release from several years ago. I believe this was from 2013. And I don't know if you can catch it on the screen, but it is a numbered copy right there. Nice 180 gram pressing. The Aerosmith reissues that were done for Record Store Day sound excellent, and I'm very glad to own this record and have it in my collection. So there you go. That right there is my vinyl haul for the months of January and February of 2018. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the record spinning.